All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the live show that we are doing for Riding Shotgun with Charlie. We are at the Samson Booth, 70737 at Caesars Forum in the SHOT Show, and this is a whole new experience. We haven't done anything like this before, so this is very cool. Our show, I don't have a list of the people that are sponsoring, because I am a highly trained professional. But one of the things that we're doing here at the Samson Booth is we are raising money for Mission 22, and you can see them behind us, behind the people that are behind us. There is a claw machine here at the Samson Booth, and for $10, did you try this yet?
I have not.
You have not. You have to.
I will.
For $10, you can try. You can get 2 shots at the claw machine. You can either win a T-shirt or up to an $1,800 optic. Dude, that's pretty substantial.
It's quite the prize.
You can also win a Green Army guy. So there's a wide variety of things that you could win. Anyway, so we got some people here. DJ Play Nice is here. Awesome. Glad you can hear us. Glad you can see us. I have with me Cody Wisniewski from Firearms Policy Coalition. Did I say Wisniewski right?
Yes, you did. You
Good,
got it dead on.
I did my homework, and I listened to you on cam last week. So it's great to have you here. Is this your first SHOT Show? Let's ask you that.
This is not. No,
this is not your first SHOT Show.
I don't know what number this is, but it's been a few.
Very cool. So have you been with FPC for a long time, or did you come with other people, other companies?
I have been with other companies as well.
Yep.
So I was with FPC. I'm now with FPC Action Foundation, which is kind of our related organization too.
Right.
So I've been with, I suppose this is technically my third org now, if you count both FPC and FPC Action Foundation, which
Nice.
seems like cheating, but
Right. No, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
But I've always been in the space. I've always come, before this, I worked for a nonprofit as well, doing Second Amendment litigation and other constitutional litigation as well.
Cool.
So it's always been for the same reason.
Excellent. Excellent. One of my friends likes to say that we work for the Second Amendment. That's who we work for.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. He's
that's
like,
a good line.
I like to say it a little differently. I like to say, why can't we pull a Rodney King and say, can't we all just get along? So, very cool. All right. So DJ's telling us that both audio and the video are poor, which is great. Thank you so much. We're glad you're here. Sorry it's not working out better. We had to turn someone's phone into a hotspot and say, look, you leave and leave your phone here. So. You guys, let's talk about FPC stuff. So FPC has, you guys just had some groundbreaking decisions, right? You guys were involved with the 18 to 20-year-olds.
Yeah. So in Pennsylvania, we had a case challenging a law that prohibited 18 to 20-year-olds from being able to get carry permits.
Yep.
And we just got a massive win in that case where the court ruled in our favor.
Nice.
I think the 18 to 20 issue is particularly interesting because a lot of us in the space and in the industry are no longer 18 to 20. So it can kind of be a forgotten area for a minute. But when you look at history, which is how we look at the bounds of the right, and the bounds of how the Second Amendment works, you look at what it meant when it was ratified in 1791.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at history, if it wasn't for 18 to 20-year-olds carrying firearms, we wouldn't have a country.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have a nation. And so I think it's a very unique issue. It's an issue that doesn't always get a lot of attention, but we're seeing the courts really focus on it now. And we're starting to see a lot of wins in several of our cases. This is our 6th win in an 18 to 20 case.
That's awesome.
It's been some great movement on that area.
That's very cool. My day job is I work in school. I work in some Catholic schools, and one of the schools I teach in, I have to teach in the library. And there's a book about it's pictures from the Civil War. And what I went and dug up some pictures. I actually made a video of me stealing the book from the library because you think I could just check it out, but it was me stealing this book and replacing it with another book. And it was like Indiana Jones. I put the Indiana Jones music in and stuff. And so that what I wanted to show is say this is, in the Civil War, my point was in the Civil War, there were people that were under 18, some of these pictures that they had, that were under 18 that were fighting in the Civil War. So that brings us back to what, 1865?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people, teenagers were able to to have guns and protect their country in 1865.
And we're not even just able to, we're expected to, we're required to
Yeah.
in some instances. Now, I'm not saying that like that's what we should shift to, where everybody's required to have a firearm, but the idea of going the opposite direction and prohibiting these people from being able to possess or carry arms is just completely antithetical to everything that the Second Amendment stands for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't want to say it's shocking to believe that the anti-gun wackos don't want this to happen, but it's a little ridiculous.
And ironic when they're also pushing to lower
To
voting
lower
ages.
the right, I hate to say we don't like to talk about politics, but we know that the human mind is not fully formed until you're 25 or 26 years old.
I've met some
Right?
25 and 26-year-olds, and I'm not sure it's always
Could be a little higher.
fully formed by that point either.
Right. But we get to be adult. I'm going to use air quotes when I say adults. We get to be adults when we're 18. We can drive cars when we're 16. You can smoke cigarettes when you're 18. You can vote when you're 18. If you're a male, you have to enlist. Or not enlist, but you have to fill out the
Register
draft
for the
card.
draft, yeah.
Yes, register for the draft. And then 21, obviously, to drink alcohol. But they don't want to, the anti-gun folks don't want to, they want to lower the age for voting, drop it down to 16,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
Well, and it's the idea that you can be deemed an adult in all these other ways,
Yeah.
but then be prohibited from protecting your own life, right? Because at the end of the day, the Second Amendment protects the underlying natural right to self-defense from both man and tyranny, right? Like, I'm not saying that this isn't also a check on government. It very clearly is. But what's inherent in both of those things is protection and preservation of life.
Yeah.
And so the real outcome of that argument, saying that 18 to 20-year-olds cannot carry firearms, what you're saying is their lives are less valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You trust them as an adult in all other aspects, but you don't trust them to protect their own lives. You can also go get married at 18
Oh, my God.
and have a family.
Some states it's younger.
So
But that's only if you're marrying relatives. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
But yeah, so you could start a family at 18. You could buy a house. You could get a mortgage, and then you have a government that's going to say, "But you can't carry
You can't
a gun
carry
to
a gun."
protect that family."
This is I got to tread lightly how I say this, but I like telling people that I love the abortion issue, and I'm using air quotes when I say it, because if you're a 14-year-old girl and you can have an abortion without your parents knowing, then I've been saying for a long time, when you leave after you have your abortion, you should stop at the liquor store, buy some cigarettes, buy a gun, get a driver's license, get a credit card, get a mortgage. You're making adult decisions. So welcome to adulthood. It sucks, but welcome to adulthood. Be an adult. And if you're making adult decisions at 14, 15, 16 years old, welcome to be an adult. These are the things you get to do as an adult.
Yeah, I mean, you can go enlist. You can get a mortgage, you can start a family, have a house. but
Yeah,
can't have a gun.
I've got some friends that are they've served in the military. God bless them, and they said the reason that the reason the military takes mostly men, not that they don't take women, but the reason they take people that are 18 years old is because they think they're invincible. So they'll go in and do all these crazy things that they want people to do.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. All right, what else is FPC involved in?
Our other big cases have been our cases against the ATF. So we've got some litigation
Yep.
on the bump stock issue.
Yeah.
There's a different case that's pending on cert before the Supreme Court. It's pending on the merits before the Supreme Court. So the Cargill case,
Yeah.
which isn't one of ours, but is a case that we've supported on that issue. But then our big two ones have been our challenge to ATF's framer receiver rule, which was ATF's attempt to basically get rid of the so-called like 80%er industry.
Right.
So that's been a big push. And then we have another case in Mock v. Garland, and that's our pistol brace case. And so dealing with the ATF's attempt to reclassify all braced pistols, 99.9% in their words, of all braced pistols as if they were SBRs. So those have been massive cases. We've gotten injunctions against the ATF in both of those cases. We've gotten merits wins in those cases in Vanderstock. So, we've filed a lawsuit against every major firearms-related rulemaking in the past 6 years. And so far, there have been injunctions against every major firearms rulemaking in the past 6 years. So we're definitely trending in the right direction.
All right. I was, not to interrupt.
No.
I was talking with a friend of mine. We hear all these court cases. We hear all these terms.
Yes.
I hear it. I don't use it because I don't know what it means. What is an injunction?
That's fair. So all an injunction is an injunction stops somebody from doing something.
Okay.
And so if you get an injunction against the federal government, it stops the federal government from doing something, from enforcing something, from implementing something.
Okay.
Now, there's two different kinds. So sometimes you'll hear us talk about a preliminary injunction.
Yeah.
A preliminary injunction means the court is stopping the government from enforcing the challenged law during the time of the case. So basically what the court is saying, plaintiff, you're probably going to win, and so we're not going to let the government enforce the law until we get to a final resolution.
Gotcha.
So that's why it's preliminary. A permanent injunction is final relief. So you get all the way to the end of the case, and the court goes, yes, plaintiffs, you did win. We are going to permanently enjoin, so forever prevent the government from enforcing whatever challenged law.
Gotcha.
So that's what an injunction is, and that's what the difference between preliminary and permanent is.
Okay.
The other thing that you'll hear us talk about in these cases, sometimes you'll hear a stay of enforcement,
Yes.
which is kind of the same thing as an injunction. It basically means the court is pausing enforcement on something.
Okay.
The other one you'll hear in these cases, because they're a little bit different, because they're not traditional civil litigation, because we're challenging under a law called the Administrative Procedure Act, which is what sets the rules for agencies to make their own rules. You'll hear us talk about vacatur. Now, vacatur is a term that means to vacate, right? To get rid of, to erase.
Yep.
And vacatur is important in these cases because under the APA, the Administrative Procedure Act, setting aside the rule or vacating the rule is the appropriate final relief, which just means at the end of the day, if we win, when we win,
Nice.
the court should vacate the rule entirely, which means it should take the rule or just erase it from the books.
Wow.
So that's the other term that'll come up in these cases. And sometimes it's complicated too, because I know a lot of people pay attention to litigation now, and they look at the difference of, hey, can the Fifth Circuit issue an opinion that goes outside of its jurisdictional bounds?
Right.
What can a district court do? The important thing with vacatur in these cases and in this context is that vacatur is against the rule, not necessarily against the parties. So if the court erases the rule, then there's nothing to be enforced in any jurisdiction.
Wow. Okay. This
is legal relief 101 on riding shotgun with Charlie.
I know. I appreciate this. Because I'm like, wait a second. What does this mean? I drive people around for a show. Legal terms right over my head, like right out the window, right out the window. What else was I thinking? So this is kind of what happened with the Cargill case, right? Because I'm kind of familiar with that.
Yeah.
I've had Michael on my show, and he won the case at the Fifth Circuit, but they didn't determine what his relief was. They didn't
Exactly.
And it was they couldn't. He's like, so do I get to have bump stocks? Can I sell bump stocks? Is this good for the Fifth Circuit, Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, or is it good for everybody? And I think the court said, we don't know.
Basically, yeah.
Right. So they said, great, we're going to take this to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. And that's what we're seeing a lot more, too, as the government is losing more. They're just trying to find collateral ways to stop us.
Yeah.
And so one of their pushes has been to try and murky the water around jurisdiction. There's all these terms that you hear thrown around, right? Like nationwide injunction, universal injunction, the court's appropriate jurisdiction. So they're trying to muddy the waters around that, because here's the other underlying side, right? They want these rules to be in place, obviously. They're unconstitutional, they're unlawful, but they want them to be in place. They want to be able to enforce them. But the second best thing is to confuse and scare the shit out of people.
Oh, yeah. Confuse the poop out of people.
So that they just choose to not exercise their right because they're afraid of
They're afraid to get right, and they don't have money. They don't want to ruin their life. They don't want to drain their bank account, sell their house just to be able to do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like it is a huge goal of theirs, just to make it confusing. If it's confusing, then people are less likely to come in to try and exercise their rights, to try and enter into that space.
Right.
And then the feds get what they want anyway because they are deterring gun ownership or they're deterring, these practices.
Yep.
And if they can deter them long enough, then they'll fall out of favor, they'll fall out of culture. Right? If you can prevent something for a long enough time, then people are just going to stop looking at it as if it's something
you could do.
Yeah, relevant to their rights.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. One of the things that I think is interesting is that interesting air quotes when I say that, I guess the anti-gun folks will they'll say okay, they'll kind of surrender and say, all right, listen, you know what, we can't come after your guns. Here's what we're going to do. We're gonna ban ammunition. We're gonna have like in California, we're gonna have background checks on ammunition, or we're gonna say like they're doing in New York and in New Jersey and in Massachusetts, and saying, hey, listen, you know what? We're gonna make the training so difficult, you're gonna throw your hands up and say it's not worth it, or even worse, it's going to cost you this much money to be able to exercise your right. I know I'm an instructor in Massachusetts, and I figured out it's about $800 to go from, hey, I think I'd like to have a gun, to having your gun with your ammunition, with your safety gear, to shoot at a range that you belong to.
Yeah.
It's an easy $800 to $1,000 for that.
Yeah.
And to make it more costly, to have, instead of a 4-hour non-live firing course, to have a 16-hour or an 18-hour class that's, live fire and getting certain qualifications and active shooter training and de-escalation courses and all this nonsense.
Yeah, and you see it in all these contexts. I mean, licensure is a great example, and it's just how many barriers can we put in the way to make it harder for people to do, to make it more expensive for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's so ironic to me is the impact of that is to discourage like underprivileged communities from being able to possess and carry arms.
Yeah.
Right. So the people that are out here saying that government isn't fair, or our system of government isn't fair, or enforcement of laws isn't fair,
right.
and it's racially motivated, or it's based on class lines. The place where that's most obvious is firearms regulation. I mean, stop and frisk for firearms wasn't happening on Rodeo Drive or Fifth Ave, right? And you're not talking. I mean, for middle class, upper class, $800, yeah, that's a lot of money, but it's doable. It's fine. But for people who can't afford that, then they're just functionally prohibited from possessing arms.
Yeah.
There's no free pathway for them to be able to do what they want to do.
Right. And of course, there's no other right where you have to spend this kind of money to get some training and education and insurance and restrictions, government permission.
Yeah. Imagine if you had to take a 16-hour class, to pay for a $800 license, to get a permit to purchase a Twitter account, and to have training on how to tweet, and to have training on what speech is protected and what isn't.
Right.
Maybe.
What you can say, what you can't say.
Yeah. Imagine if you had to do it. People would be up in arms.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to spend $1,000 in 2 weekends just to be able to have and possess a free speech platform.
Yeah.
Or to be able to speak. Or to exercise your religion.
Yeah.
I mean, people would be up in arms if it happened in any of those contexts.
Ironically, up in arms. They're going to be up in arms, but they can't use any of those. You got to take a class. You got to go through a requirement, background check.
Yeah. And that's always at the end of the day, that's our biggest point. That's our biggest issue is we want to ensure that everybody has access to exercise their rights. The right to self-defense, the right to protect yourself from others, the right to resist tyranny is one of the most fundamental human rights. It is a basic, natural, and alienable right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The idea that we, suffer these infringements day after day, when we set up a system of government that was specifically designed to protect against those infringements, is why we do what we do at FPC.
FPC, very cool. Tell us more about the bump stock cases and the pistol brace.
Yeah, so bump stocks is currently pending on the merits before the Supreme Court. So what that means is the Supreme Court has already agreed to hear the case.
Okay.
The case is being briefed as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the Supreme Court, generally speaking, there are instances where this isn't the case, but generally speaking, we will see an opinion from the Supreme Court about the legality of the bump stock ban at some point before or by June. So that's huge. I mean, it could lay the groundwork for a lot of these other ATF
for everything
cases.
else. Yeah, for sure.
In particular, there's a question in there of, criminal laws are supposed to be interpreted, if ambiguous, in favor of the defendant. Because you never want somebody to be thrown in jail because they didn't understand an ambiguous law. It's called the rule of lenity. And that's a big issue in the Cargill case, and something I think that could really come up, because statutorily speaking, on a plain meaning basis, the law is ridiculous. Like, a bump stock is not a machine gun. It doesn't change the way that a semi-automatic firearm operates. So I think that I'm hopeful that we'll see a ruling in that case based on that plain meaning of the statute. That the agency can't go beyond that. But I'm hoping that we see some treatment either in the majority opinion or maybe even in a concurrence of one of the other justices writing on this issue of lenity as well. Because even if there is an ambiguity, even if it's potentially ambiguous, it's not, even if it is, that ambiguity has to be interpreted in the favor of the would-be defendant, which would be, Cargill in this case, the millions of Americans. So I would expect to see a ruling on that issue coming out in June. One good thing, I know a lot of people are a little hesitant on the Supreme Court right now and seeing how some of these cases have shaken out. Obviously we went up and we ended up with a 5-4 decision that didn't allow us to keep an injunction in place in the 80% case. Obviously there was the recent 5-4 decision that just happened yesterday. But
okay. I've
not
been
a
here.
gun case.
Okay. All right.
This was the border case where a lot of people feel like the court swayed one way. One thing I would say is the court is very hesitant when it comes to administrative rulemaking right now. The court is paying a lot of attention to these executive branch agencies.
Yeah.
And so, yes, this is a gun case, but also at the end of the day, this is an admin law case. This is Administrative Law 101. And so it can have a huge impact on that. And I'm hopeful that the court is going to look at the case through that lens as well, which might take away some, if there is any hesitancy around just the word machine gun. That, more traditionally, like small c conservative, not like politically conservative, but just small c conservative justices might feel. So I think that's kind of where bump stock sits, and it should lay some good groundwork. For pistol braces, we're currently litigating the case on dual tracks. So we have our injunction, our preliminary injunction.
Thank you for bringing it back down to my level.
In that case. And, of course, another court granted a stay of the rule as well. So the federal government appealed our injunction.
Okay.
And so that appeal on just about the injunction is up at the Fifth Circuit. But we slow for no man. So we are plowing ahead with the full merits of the case as well at the district court. And so we have already filed our brief on the merits. The feds are filing their brief as well. And basically what that means is the full merits of the case is also proceeding through the district court. So we're not waiting, we're not pausing. That way we can get to that final resolution in the case as quickly as possible, which again, we argue is vacatur, which would mean that the rule in its entirety is erased. And that's really the point that we want to get to.
Very cool. Very cool. You live in free America. Have you built your I refuse to call them ghost guns, and when I call them ghost guns, I have to use that voice. Sometimes I do ghost gun, and I make that kind of a sound. But I do the same thing for assault weapons and high cap mags.
Yeah.
You live in free America.
I have undertaken some activities to construct firearms.
Right. Very cool. I know it's always tricky. I call them the DIYs.
Yeah.
Right. And I think part of the people we can thank for wanting to build our own guns is not just our own history, but our own American history. But we can thank IKEA for this as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not really a furniture builder if you buy all the parts at IKEA and you go home and you put your furniture together.
I think in this context, you might be a manufacturer of furniture under firearms law.
If the firearms law pertained to IKEA, then yes, you would be a manufacturer.
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
I think it's brilliant. I have my 3D printer. I'm not very good with it, but I do love what like the 3D printing community has done for self-manufacture. I love to see like the industries that have evolved around it. Like I said, these so-called 80%ers. I keep saying like assault weapon and whatnot, right? 80%ers is just a marketing term. It doesn't denote anything. They're not
Right.
80% manufactured.
Right. The 81%'s bad. 79 is good.
It's great.
Right?
Yeah.
This is
so
ridiculous.
I love to see that industry evolve and to like make it so that people can, really self-manufacture and really take advantage of their ability to do so and their right to do so. I also think it's a beautiful way to get people more into firearms as well. It helped me understand how firearms function better and better by toying with, playing with, assembling, building, doing all of that. I think that's a brilliant way to get people more familiar with their firearms, which also just makes people better stewards. It makes people safer with firearms.
Yep.
And it is really this very kind of guttural feeling of like connecting back to your ability to self-manufacture your own arm for your own defense. I mean, that is just kind of it's a very beautiful thing. And so I really love the industry that's evolved around it.
Very cool. All right. We've got to let you go, but hold on a second. Nick, would you like to do this here and now? Like on this? Do you want to? All right. Uno momento, por favor. You stay here. So we have Nick Wong from CNJFO, the Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners, and he's got something for you.
Ooh.
I know, right?
It's always exciting.
It's not an 80%er.
Oh.
It's not Samson parts, but it is something very cool. And we're gonna bring Nick from CNJFO up. After Nick comes up, we are going to have Jim Irvine from Faster Saves Lives, and I'm going to talk with Jim Irvine about what's going on with Faster Saves Lives. Have you heard about Faster before?
I have.
Those guys are doing some amazing stuff, and they're in a bunch of states.
Absolutely.
I'm going to step out of here. I'm going to let Nick do all of this. Nick, come have a seat. Here. Have a seat. Hop on in there.
All right, thank you.
Here, you want to put these on?
Sure, pop that over.
There we go. I didn't sanitize them.
That's okay. I trust you. All right, how you doing, Cody?
I'm doing well, Nick. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yep. So, on behalf of the Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners and the work that you've done with us to promote the Second Amendment in New Jersey, we actually have a check here for you for $5,000.
Wow.
From the CNJFO, and this is to help fund the lawsuits that you've been helping us work with and put on.
That's fantastic, Nick. We really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure litigating against those tyrants in New Jersey and doing everything we can to make sure that you guys can exercise your rights just like anybody in the United States can.
As a grassroots organization, it's really key to have somebody on the national level that's helping us out for to help do these lawsuits. Because we can't do it alone. It's a fight for the entire country,
Absolutely.
And we really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate the support. Thank you very much, and we'll keep fighting.
All right, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
We'll leave this here for a sec and get this to
Let me
turn.
grab these off your head. All right.
Get a couple more pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent job.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, we are Cody. Thank you so much, dude.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to meet you. I'm gonna have to come down to Nashville and get a show with you there.
Absolutely.
We're gonna let you go.
Okay.
And here we are. You're good, man.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Sir.
What we're going to do now is we're going to bring in Jim Irvine from Faster Saves Lives. Before we talk about Faster Saves Lives, I want to talk about Mission 22. Behind me here at the SHOT Show at the Samson Manufacturing booth 70737. They have a claw machine. It's right behind me. Some gentleman here is using it. And what they're doing is they're raising money for Mission. Sorry, I'm looking over here. They're raising money for Mission 22. Mission 22 is to raise money to help our veterans, and because we know they all take 22 veterans take their lives every day, so they're raising money for that. You can win anything from a Samson T-shirt or a Samson hat to as much as an $1,800 optic. So you need to come down and do that, and have a great time down here at the SHOT Show. All right, the next person we're going to have coming in is Jim Irvine. Jim Irvine. Jim Irvine is from Faster Saves Lives, and Faster Saves Lives teaches they teach school staff, and they teach. It's not just teachers, but you teach everyone else that's in the school staff as well. Custodians, lunch ladies. I don't know if we want lunch ladies packing heat, but
we've had a couple that did good.
Excellent.
We've had one that didn't do so well, but yeah, it's
That's
about the person, not the job.
Gotcha.
But you're right. There's all these other jobs, and
Thank you, Jim.
they do a great job.
All right, so tell us more about FASTER.
So it's acronym Faculty Administrator Safety Training and Emergency Response.
Yep.
It's designed by our nation's experts and our school staff and parents to be school safety. I am sick of our children dying in school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
It's 60, 70 years ago, we got sick of our kids dying in school fires. We've ended that problem.
Right.
And so now let's just end the violence. At this point, we've trained approximately 3,000 people, 300 districts, 22 states. We have the knowledge and experience to end school shootings. How about we all work together and get it done?
Absolutely, absolutely. How did FASTER start out?
We started out after the Sandy Hook massacre. It just, the first one with an elementary school attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just really shook people to their core. And for the first time, schools were willing to look at, hey, what do we have to do to solve this problem? And also understanding it's their duty. And unfortunately, we've regressed. You look at Uvalde, and like, one of the things that the school was complacent on safety. Well, yeah, so is almost every other school in the country. That's the normal in our schools today. We need to change that. Schools want to sit and go, well, law enforcement screwed up, and they should have come in, and they should have done this. And I'm like, wait a minute. The school is the one with care and custody of those kids, not law enforcement. The school has the legal and moral obligation to protect those kids from any foreseeable risk. As sad and horrible as it is, you know what? Active killers are a foreseeable risk today. They need some way to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a huge difference, and in the two shootings that happened in the last year, or two of the higher profile ones, the difference between Uvalde and the Christian church in Nashville, yes, is
striking.
Yes, it is, because in Nashville they went in and took care of business. It's a good way to put that. But they were able to respond faster and quicker, and obviously faster is the one that saves the lives rather than the slow and steady might win the race, but it's not going to cut it.
Right. And look, if you have a heart attack, if you have a stroke, the faster you get to good medical treatment, the more likely you are to live. It's just, that's a fact. Why would you wait around 20 minutes when we could get you with an expert doctor to, maybe he's not the one doing the brain surgery on your stroke, but maybe he's the one that's stabilizing you so that you're alive when you get to that doctor.
Yeah.
That's what this school staff is doing, is they're keeping the kids alive until our traditional first responders get there. And like, how is that? They do the same thing with a heart attack with an AED. They do the same thing with anaphylactic shock with the epinephrine.
Yep.
It's a job they're already doing. They're already intervening in domestic violence cases, even when the kids aren't in the school. That's the law in every 50 states. They do a really good job at that. Schools excel at this where they put the effort in. We're saying, hey, you got to put the effort in violence. And when the schools we've worked with that have put the effort in, we got awesome results. We got over 3 million man-hours carrying the guns in school. We got no issues, we got no problems, but we've got multiple lives saved with the medical stuff, which is pretty cool.
It is. I want to get to the medical stuff in a second, but people, our current president likes to talk about the gun-free school zone that he passed in 1994. How is it possible for a town or a school to allow their people to come in and carry in a school?
So the federal school zone stuff, there's an exemption on that if you have a concealed carry license from the state the school's in.
Okay.
So even in your permitless carry states or constitutional carry, you still have to have the license if you're going to carry in a school zone, which is 1,000 feet around it. So you got to have that. And then a lot of states have prohibitions on it, but a lot of them, the school board has the authority to authorize anybody. There's exemptions, i.e. a law enforcement officer, or doing a reenactment, or if you're doing a history thing. So there's exemptions in that restriction.
Right.
One of the typical exemptions is somebody the school has authorized. And so have the school authorize you, and then you can carry. Now we recommend, hey, let's get some extra training too, because this is a different situation. It's a sensitive place with all the little kids. We don't want negligent discharges. We don't want errant shots aimed at a really horrible person to accidentally kill little Susie.
Of course.
That's not acceptable. So you've got to have some training and some skills, and then the school sets the standard, and then they work with their local law enforcement, the school resource officer, to continue to build on that. both in a skills and a knowledge and a relationship and a trust that plays out in all sorts of other issues that our schools get into these days. And it's neat what comes out of it.
Yes, you were telling me about the unintended benefits, I think is what you called it.
Yeah, so we had, like I was just talking to a law enforcement officer saying, hey, because law enforcement, we're the professionals, we want to do that. I'm like, hey, we had a sheriff, a double homicide, 2 bodies burned in a car, and he's got a photo from the gas station, but they don't know who they are. They like no idea where to even start anything.
Right.
Calls up the superintendent and goes, hey, you can't tell them why, but they're young. Does maybe any of your high school kids know who this is?
Right.
20 minutes later, the superintendent calls back and goes, here's the name of Perp A, here's the name of Perp B, here's their Facebook page. He's wearing the same shirt as he is in your video, coincidentally.
Unbelievable.
So, multiple homicide across multiple state lines solved in 20 minutes because you have a trust with that school administrator. Flip side of the coin for the schools, we've had school superintendent get a call from a sheriff going, hey, teacher so-and-so, yeah, he's in the back of a squad car next county over with his 14-year-old student.
Yikes.
He's going to get booked in about an hour. You and your board have a heads up. Well, guess what? That doesn't come from a handshake. That comes from a trusted relationship. But that trust between your local law enforcement and stuff, you read 600 pages of Uvalde over and over and over again, what we see is they never worked together, they didn't know who each other were, so an event day comes, it's a train wreck. Well, yeah, no kidding. You and I could work together because we know each other and we've done things together.
Yeah.
That's going to benefit us, and if anything that happens, whether it's we're looking for a restaurant because we want someplace to eat, we know what each other's likes are, or something really serious, the more you know the person you're working with, like law enforcement partners, the longer they've worked together, the more stuff they've been through, the better they perform under really bad situations.
Yeah.
Well, that's what an active killing thing is. So let's start working together today and start building that relationship and that trust so that when event day happens, we know who everybody is.
Yeah.
And we can work off those nonverbal cues and work so much more efficiently and save more kids' lives. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So going right into saving kids' lives, the medical thing, when I did the Faster Saves Lives class a couple years ago, I only did the level 1 class, but the thing that I got the most out of was the medical stuff, because that is something I'm lacking, and I hate to admit it, but I am. And getting a little bit of that was really good.
We hear that's one of the most common comments in the class is I got more out of the medical than any other section of the class. And so in every state, you're allowed to use medical. The United States, we are so good at treating gunshot wounds. 90% of people shot in our country with a gun survive it because we're so good at it, unless you're in a school. 5 times the death rate. Half of them are going to die.
Oh, man.
Now, there's a couple things that go into that have nothing to do with medical stuff.
Right.
But the protocol in our nation is your kids are going to lay on the floor, bleed out, and die. That is the standard in our country today. I find that unacceptable.
Completely.
We're going to change it. The schools have got to take, it's basic stuff. A 3 to 4 hour class, you can train to 80 to 90% of the survivable injuries. Well, that's negligence if you just let them lay there and die.
Yeah,
Get involved
for
and
sure.
save these kids' life. Because guess what? Your medics aren't coming in until police clear the building. It takes too long. Their timelines cross a long time ago.
Yeah.
If you want those kids to live, then you better have staff trained in this. It's simple, it's easy, and it's unexcusable to not do it.
Yeah, for sure. Where do you guys do the trainings?
We do training Rittman, Ohio, North Ohio, just south of Cleveland, and Adams County, which is down near the Ohio River. And then we also do mobile classes. So we've had ideally, we've done training in a bunch of different states. We were out in Idaho last year, talking to multiple people in Texas over the last couple of days with all of that stuff. I was in Nebraska a couple months ago, testifying in another state actually tomorrow. So there's lots of stuff going on. The best way to do remote classes is work with your sheriff. Have them host the class.
Yeah.
They get to take credit for bringing us in.
Nice.
We get to use their range. We get to train their law enforcement officers. They get some training out of this. And then they understand what we're doing, and they understand what we don't do, so they can start filling in gaps on things that we didn't get to that they think is important, which starts building your relationship with your local law enforcement. So fastersaveslives.org is the website. Look us up and talk to your local law enforcement, talk to your school staff. Parents need to get involved. I mean, people want to go point the finger. If your school is not taking safety seriously, what are you doing about it? Why would you send your child to a school that is negligent or careless on safety?
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
you wouldn't put your kid with a drunk driver and go, well, he probably won't crash. It'll probably be okay today.
It'll probably be okay.
That's it, because statistically, it probably will.
Right.
Most drunk drivers don't get in an accident on that every day they're drunk.
But that one
But
time,
it's still not acceptable.
it's right. It's yes, for sure.
Yeah, and you
for
would
sure.
never put your kid in that and go, well, I hope today works out.
All right, it should be fine.
Yeah,
It
well,
was, it was okay last time.
yeah, one day will work, but put them in K through 12 for 12 years, and guess what? Some bad stuff's going to happen.
Yeah,
Has
for sure.
your school taken this seriously? And we know the trends are it's getting worse. Everybody, both sides of this aisle, agree on that.
Yeah.
So what is your school doing? Since our killers are evolving and getting better at killing our kids, what is your school doing? What is your law enforcement? What's your community doing to be evolving faster than those people are? Because if they're sitting there watching, they're falling further behind.
Yeah,
Not acceptable. Parents got to get involved though.
definitely. The gosh, what was I thinking? Taking the class, do the classes. Just lost it.
I hate when that happens.
Oh, I know. You were telling me one time that the one of the unintended consequences is the teachers started shooting better than the police.
Yeah, so we had a school district reach out to his local law enforcement. Hey, can you qualify all my teachers? I don't want to deal with. I have enough problems with law enforcement. I'm
Right.
not touching your teachers. What a train wreck that would be. But he pestered and pestered. Finally, shamed the guy into doing it. Fine, we got to do it on a totally different day because I can't deal with both.
Right.
Well, the teachers know they got to go shoot with the sheriff. They're all nervous, and the school superintendent says, "You don't pass. I'm pulling your certification." So guess what? They practice. They go out there. Every one of them shoots a perfect qual. Something the sheriff has never seen out of his law enforcement.
Shocking.
Yeah. So next year, he's like, all right, I'll do this because that was so simple. But you can't shoot with my law enforcement officers. It'll embarrass them all.
Oh my gosh.
So think about that. But the next year, the sheriff got smart. And he's like, wait a minute. Told his law enforcement, you're shooting with the school staff. And the school staff are shooting with the teachers. So everybody's a little bit more nervous.
Yeah.
So now they have a friendly competition. Which group has the best targets? Well, guess what? We raised the performance of our school staff, and we raised the performance of our law enforcement.
Right.
Our community won both ways. Has nothing to do with
It's
school.
a win-win-win.
Yeah, everybody wins. And they know each other. They become friends. They share emails. Law enforcement has, hey, here's an event that happened. Here, they get that information to the school. So the
Yep.
school's learning and studying, improving stuff. Hey, something happened at another district. Somebody saw at a law enforcement conference. Hey, we have the same issue here. We're going to correct that. We're going to put a lock on. We're going to put a camera on. We're going to put a monitor. We've made changes so that if that event happens in our school, we're prepared. And guess what? We've had events like that happen. And the school's like, we are so glad for this relationship that it turned what could have been a horrible situation into a routine thing. Oh yeah, we saw it coming, we handled this. It ended up being no big deal.
Right.
Because we were prepared.
That's good. That's great stuff. I just had a brain fart again. Sorry.
No, there's so many neat stories out of it. It just continues forever and ever.
The qualification. In order to pass the FASTER, you have to have a 100%.
We do. It's 90 something percent, but yeah, it's significantly higher than law enforcement in
Right.
Ohio. In other states, where we're actually looking at redoing the qual.
Yeah.
Because if we're saying, hey, we qualify at a higher thing than law enforcement's like, what are you guys bragging? You're better than us? I'm like, no, totally different than you. It's a totally different skill set, totally different position.
Right.
So we want to work better with law enforcement, so we're changing some things and using some law enforcement recommendations on how we make this work better for them. We're looking at doing a presentation at NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers, this year. So we've got a proposal in to do something with them, and they're interested in it. So hopefully that pans out because that's a natural team. It's the school resource officer. We always want them in the class. So wait a minute, he's a cop. He's SWAT trained. Why would he come train with your school staff?
Right.
It's like, well, we want him to see what we're training and why we're training it, because that'll help him on the law enforcement side, and we want to see him what we're not teaching, so he can fill things in with stuff he thinks is important. And he's your liaison between law enforcement and school staff because he works with them both, so he can facilitate all sort of transfer of knowledge, which the SRO is already doing anymore. I mean, look. If it weren't for school resource officers and Facebook, I don't know that law enforcement could solve a crime today. Those are such valuable crime-saving, solving tools.
Right.
That's our law enforcement has changed and evolved in that. They do really well at that. In our schools, I joke, like medical community, they've reversed what they used to teach. Our law enforcement, they do things completely different than they used to do.
I think things
and
evolve.
our enlightened educators, well, they keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. Einstein's definition of insanity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Why are you enlightened educators the last ones to learn?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, he's talking about us. Like, yeah, I am.
We are.
But it's because they're good people. They care. they've just never been presented the information.
Mm-hmm.
So for you parents, present our information to them. Help them learn this stuff so that they know and they understand and they set better policies.
Right. I know you're getting a call. We have somebody. I'm trying to watch this. I'm trying to do everything. But somebody's.
This is easy. We're not even. You and I are used
I'm
to
not
talking.
even driving.
You and I are used to talking to people while we're traveling. This is an odd thing for us to sit on a couch.
Sitting in the same place. We've got one person that asks if we. I know you guys are doing a lot of comments about the audio, and I'm not sure how to fix it. But somebody asked a question. So DJ, if you have a question about the program, please type it in, and we will. We'll see if we can get to, if I can read it and we can get to it. That'll be cool. So if DJ, if you got a question, please do.
And anybody who doesn't, email me, Jim@fastersaveslives.org. I'll get back to you.
There we go. If you have a question, you want to talk to Jim, Jim@fastersaveslives.org. Let's see if he puts his question in. Well, how many states? 22 states.
22 states, and we're working. We have a proposal with Congress in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we need some federal funding. And as I read through the Uvalde critical incident report,
Right, 600 pages. You
600 plus pages. And
That's a lot.
It's the sad thing is there's nothing shocking that I've learned so far. I mean, what we learned is we wish our law enforcement was trained better.
Mm-hmm.
We wish our school staff took safety seriously before the event happens.
Right.
We know when you don't, things don't go together. So I haven't learned anything out of it so far. It's frustrating as heck. But it's not surprising if you understand how these things go. I've read the same report a bunch of times. It's every one of these goes the same way, unless your school's prepared. Like Nashville, they did a lot of things right. We need to study and learn from that. And I wish our media spent more time with the successes than they do the failure. I know if it leads, and all that stuff, and that's who we want. But man, I crave accurate information. I am an airline pilot. I want to know why something went wrong so that I don't make that mistake and my passengers are safer.
Yeah.
And that's what you want sitting in the back of my airplane.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? How wrong? Why is it wrong to want the same thing out of our school staff? Go learn and be better, be safer with our kids. Those kids are just every bit as important, and I would argue even more so, than the 180 passengers that are going to be sitting behind me this week.
Sure, absolutely. All right, listen, I know you've got to get moving, right?
I do, and I know you got other stuff lined up. Here,
this is it. Like I'm only doing a couple people a day for shows like this, but I do have other shows I got to go do at other places. So, Jim, thank you so much for being on. Tell us again where we can find you.
It's website's fastersaveslives.org,
okay.
And my email's Jim@fastersaveslives.org.
All right, very cool. Stick around. I got to plug a couple things and I'll let you go.
All right, thanks,
Awesome.
Charlie.
All right, so listen, we thank you guys for tuning in. I am going to try to talk to someone and try to figure out how to get a better connection so we get some better audio and hopefully some better video as well. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We're live here at the SHOT Show. Don Moran says hello, which is nice.
Oh, Don. Yeah, I know Don. Yes,
of course.
Hi, Don.
I thought I saw him yesterday, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of bald guys with white goatees walking around. So, anyway, thanks for tuning in. We're here at the Samson Manufacturing booth 70737 at the SHOT Show. Behind me is a claw machine. For $10, you get 2 opportunities to win anything from a Samson hat or a Samson T-shirt to an $1,800 optic. So if you're here at the SHOT Show, please come down and do that. Thursday, they are going to be giving a rifle. There's a rifle way up here above my head. They're going to be giving that away with the band 3 Doors Down, and they are going to autograph that as well. So that's going to be on Thursday afternoon. We thank you guys for tuning in. Jim, this has been great. This is your first SHOT Show?
No, it's not. It's my first in a few years.
First in a few
years.
years.
It's so overwhelming. Like everybody is here. And if you guys are wondering about these prizes, I looked around before I came on with you. There is some neat stuff in this booth.
It's you can like I said, you can win anything from a Samson hat or shirt or a little green guy, I think, as well. They got little green army men's that they have. So we're going to sign off. We thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Vegas time, 1 p.m. in Eastern time, we are going to have some people from Gun Owners of America. I think we're going to have Ben Sanderson. Stephen Williford is going to be coming, I believe, as well as Tony Simon from the Diversity Shoot. So please tune in to all of the Riding Shotgun socials. And we thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.